Please buy your tickets.
Darcy, so hockey's been your life for years and years and years. This was your first stick.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the history about how you got into sport and hockey in general.
So I think I always played loads of sports growing up, but probably my first memory was Beijing 2008 Olympics. I remember sitting and watching it and just being completely mesmerised by the whole thing, and turned around to my parents as a 6-year-old and told them I was going to be an Olympian one day, and that's been the goal ever since. And I think since then I consciously got involved in as many sports as possible. Obviously I was really competitive as a kid, I had an older brother, but I also just loved every sport.
Was it the opening ceremony because that was amazing, wasn't it?
The opening ceremony was unbelievable. I can't even remember the exact things, but I just remember being...
You remember the feeling?
Yeah. And I remember you can see the emotion on the athletes when they're in the opening ceremony, when they're competing, getting their medals. And that was just something I really wanted to do and still do. And then, so I did loads of sports. I think my main sports when I was younger was athletics and football. And I was playing, at school I was playing in the boys team for football, and I was playing Chelsea Academy girls. And I got to a certain age at school and they were like, you have to play a girls' sport. So here's hockey, it's hockey term. And that's how I got into hockey. And since I started after everyone else, quite a few girls had sticks and stuff. I didn't have one yet because I wasn't sure. I just didn't have one yet. And one of the hockey teacher gave me this stick to keep kind of secretly on the down low because I was taller than everyone. I needed one that was a bit taller. So that was my first hockey stick that I could call mine, I guess.
So you mentioned the Olympics in Beijing. Was that when you fell in love with hockey, or was that just the Olympics in general?
I don't think I knew about hockey then.
No. When did you first become aware of
So when I started hockey at school, I remember I made my way up the school teams and then got to the A team, and the next step was to join my local club. So I joined Surbiton, not knowing what that club was, and that's the club I'm still at today.
Wow.
And Surbiton, maybe I'm biased, but Surbiton's the best club in the country. And there was quite a few women in the ladies teams who were playing for GB and were going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
So there was the excitement of having role models right there that I knew of, had met, that were going to an Olympic Games. So then when London 2012 came around, it was just the most exciting time because I knew the players on the pitch.
They won medals back to back to back, right? 3 straight Olympics.
Bronze, gold, bronze, which is unbelievable.
What was the impact of that?
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it made so many people want to do hockey. It showed how amazing of a sport it is, how exciting it is. And
how dramatic it is as well.
It's so dramatic. It's a hectic sport, but also when you're dreaming of going to the Olympics, you're dreaming of getting an Olympic gold, and seeing a team do that well makes that seem a lot more achievable.
Yeah. So Surbiton is the best club in England, according to you. Talk to me about the club, the traditions, what it means to you. I know like you've transitioned from a youth player to now first team player. Give us some insight.
Yeah, so firstly, I will agree, it is the best club in the world. I love the club. And I think that is because I've been at the club for so long. So I joined Surbiton as my local club. I think it's the nearest hockey pitch to my house, so I had no idea what I was signing up for. And it's got one of the biggest cult systems. There must be thousands of kids playing junior hockey there, and there's maybe like 30, 40 adult teams. So it's a really nice family culture. So I guess I started when I joined under 12s, I was 10. And so I remember we used to have training on a pitch, and they split us into the 4 quarters of the pitch in ability. And I joined, they didn't know who I was, they just threw me on the bottom. And I hated that. And every time I was coming home, I was fuming, wanting to work my way up. And then over the Christmas holidays, really worked on it, did lessons with the coach and like put the time in. And by that end of that year, I made it into the under 12 national squad, which was the biggest thing I'd done. And it was so exciting. And we came away, we won the tournament. And that was my first taste for having to work really hard to get somewhere in sport, but also falling in love with hockey. And I think from then onwards, I started working through the ranks at club, county, towards international stuff. But it's quite cool at the club. You can play junior stuff alongside training with the adult team. So then I'd start joining in training with the adults and getting to see the Olympians training on the pitch next to us, work my way to training with them. So I remember the first time I trained with the ones, there was this lady called Georgie Twigg who recently retired from club hockey, who was the legend of the game at the time. And like 3 weeks in, I made 1 tackle on her, and I came home, I was like, I tackled Twigg. And it was probably the highlight of my year. But I think having the role models right there is half the reason I stuck with hockey, because I could see myself having a future there.
And there's a rich culture of winning, right?
At the club? Yeah, I think we've won 9 out of the last 10 Premier League titles.
Wow.
So,
Dynasty.
So working my way up to the ones has been really fun, and now being in the club as an adult, and I know the 10-year-olds who are daughters of ladies I used to play with, or I know the 6-year-olds who have been at the club forever. It's a nice culture, but also I like to win, and that's the club if you want to go somewhere to win.
You've got like your certificate from your debut. Talk to us through that feeling. Like, that must have been an out-of-body experience.
That was an amazing day.
Yeah.
Because it's always been my dream to represent my country and play at the top level. And I'd worked my way up. I played junior England, but playing senior England, I remember, so my first game was in Argentina away, which is an amazing place for a first game. Hockey out there is huge. We're being chased by paparazzi and kids and maybe not paparazzi, but kids and fans being chased by hockey fans.
It's all the same thing.
And the stadium was full in Buenos Aires, and I'm playing against ladies who I've watched go to the Olympics and have so many caps on their back. And singing that national anthem that day was a moment I would never forget. And I got a bit emotional, and it kind of hit me that everything I've been working towards had been worth it, and I was just there to my final goal of going to the Olympics.
Wow. And this was your
first GB cap.
GB cap.
So in hockey sometimes we play as England, sometimes as GB. So certain tournaments like the World Cup or the Commonwealth Games are England, and some are GB, which are the Olympics. So for this, GB is hardest to get into because obviously it's Scotland, England, Wales. And this is when I got my first cap in New Zealand.
Wow.
Again, another amazing location for a first cap. And even though I'd got my England cap and I'd played quite a few games for England at that point, that's just another step closer to representing who I'd always dreamed of representing. And having been injured for so long now, the excitement I have to get back and put that shirt back on is like nothing else. It's going to be like a first cap all over again, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited for it.
You've been to a World Cup?
Yes.
What was that like?
That was really cool. I mean, senior international tournament, the World Cup is my first tournament. It was such a cool experience. Mine was a very unique experience. I was initially a travelling reserve.
Okay.
And that was the summer where we had World Cup, Commonwealth Games, Olympic, European qualifiers in the space of 2 months. Because of COVID, it was all messed up. So it was the biggest summer of hockey ever.
Wow.
And I was named travelling reserve, which is the worst position to be in. But I remember thinking, okay, I think I was 20 at the time maybe. It'll be an amazing experience to get to go and see what top level sport is like. And then the day before the tournament started, one of our players got injured and I had to step in.
Wow.
And it's a tricky position because your teammates are your friends. And I was absolutely gutted for her. But also I've been given the opportunity to do everything I'd ever wanted to do.
So you went to Duke in 2020.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Why Duke, first of all? I know it's like a famous university, but why?
Yeah, I mean, so I had a 10-year life plan that I wrote out when I was 12.
Yeah.
And America wasn't in that life plan. I didn't think it was an option. And then people started going out to America, and England Hockey said it was fine if we did that and we could come back. So I started looking into it. I wasn't super keen, but I thought, why not? And I'd been scouted by quite a few of the top colleges out there, and they get to send you on visits. So I was at school, but doing free weekend trips to Harvard, Stanford, Michigan, Duke. It was I was treating it like a bit of a holiday, honestly. 16-year-old me, I was injured at the time. I was in a boot, so I wasn't missing games on the weekend. It was a perfect opportunity, so why not? And then I got out there and I just saw how amazing everything is, how big it is, how professionally they treat their student athletes there. You know, it's just a whole different lifestyle. And then when it came to making the decision about going to the US or staying here, it was kind of a case of why not? My dad said to me, why wouldn't you? You've got the opportunity to study on the other side of the world, live out on the other side of the world for free, and come away with a top degree, better than a degree that you would get if you went to a university here.
Yeah.
And like, why wouldn't you? If you hate it after a year, you can come back and you've lost nothing. So that was kind of the attitude, which I don't know if it's the right reason to do it, but that's why I went. I was very happy in England at the time.
Yeah.
And I went out and it was definitely a culture shock, to say the least. I was in North Carolina, which isn't the South, but
it's pretty close. Yeah.
You're getting there. And people were listening to country music and they were dressing differently. And I was like, what have I done? And then after a few weeks, I settled in and I'd gotten to know the team, and it was the best year of my life, or one of the best years of my life. Yeah, it was amazing.
So you mentioned the lifestyle. Being an athlete in a big, like, sports university like Duke, what was that like? I guess there's two aspects to it. Firstly, you're an athlete, and secondly, you're a British athlete.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
So as I said, the student athlete lifestyle is so professional out there.
Yeah.
They treat you like you're professional athletes, and you're on the pitch every day of the week, you're in the gym multiple times a week, you've got nutritionists, psychologists, they're handing you food.
Wow.
So much care, like nothing I'd ever had before. And that was, you know, as an 18-year-old, I was loving every second of it. And then on top of that, I was British, and Americans love British people. They'd hear my accent and just be like, can you speak? Like, are you actually a real English person? I was like, yeah. But that was quite fun. And there was actually quite a big group of us that were English that joined Duke that year. Not many were athletes, but it was kind of nice. We had our little community of friends that we were familiar with, and we'd all met up in England beforehand. But I quite liked that my team didn't have any English people on it. That was one of the reasons I chose not to go to Stanford or Harvard, which had a lot of English people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, if I'm going that far away, I wanted a new experience.
Yeah.
And it just threw me in the deep end. There was two Dutch girls and the rest were American, that was it. But I thought it was such a cool experience because I'd be out playing in a league in America, but I'd be marking the Argentinian recruit or the Kiwi recruit and the international USA player. And yeah, it was just a really cool place to be.
And that experience must like really help you now, right? Like now back in England playing week in, week out.
I think that the hockey out there wasn't as good as Surbiton is.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason my decision was difficult to go there, because that's the stereotype that it's not as good out there.
Yeah.
But as I said, in the competition, I was getting more minutes, I was getting more time on the ball, I was marking some of the best players, and that gave me a whole different side of my game where I had the confidence to grow as a player that I don't get when I'm under high pressure necessarily.
It's almost like you were out on loan, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the intention of being out there for 4 years.
Yeah.
The decision to come back for good was a really difficult one because I had such an amazing time. It was weighing up, do I keep going with Duke where I'm having the best time of my life, I'm going to walk away with an amazing degree that will set me up for the rest of my life? Or do I drop it all to follow the one dream I've always had of going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And it came to that because I'm still getting a degree. I'm still having a good time here. I knew I'd regret it if I didn't come back. And so I stand by that decision. It was just a hard one to make.
You suffered a torn meniscus 14 months ago. Talk me through some of the impacts of long-term injury that the general public won't necessarily know about.
Yeah, I think with injuries, people know it's bad and it's tricky for an athlete especially. It's tricky for anyone. But not many people actually talk about what it is really like being injured as an athlete and how difficult it can be. And I think for my injury specifically, I tore my meniscus, and initially I knew I'd done something bad to my knee, and I was just praying, please don't be an ACL, please don't be a major ligament. And I heard meniscus and I thought, okay, this is good, I can work with this. The Olympics are 12 months, 13 months out, you know, I'll be fine. But with my injury, there was just setback after setback, and we were looking at 6 weeks initially, and then 3 months, and then at 4 months suddenly I needed surgery, and then 6 months down the line I was back, and then I had another, you know, here we are 8 months after that. So I never thought it was going to be 14 months, and I think, well, the emotional toll of a long-term injury is always going to be tough, but when you're just constantly getting disappointed, I think that was something I could never prepare myself for. And I think as an athlete, I had a goal of going to Paris since Paris was announced. I've had a poster on my wall with the Paris Olympics on it since I was 12 years old. And that's just been my goal, and I've been getting closer and closer and closer. And as that became less and less achievable because of my knee, I think that's when it put me in a very difficult place emotionally. And obviously, it's not good getting injured at any point in an athlete's career. You can argue you don't want to get it early, you don't want to get it late, before a tournament. There's never a good time.
Yeah.
But for me, that felt like the be all end all. It felt like everything was crashing down. And that's something that I don't know if people spoke about it more. I could have been better prepared to handle it emotionally, mentally, because it's more than just the physical toll, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because for me, my sport was my goal, it's my passion, it's my hobby, it's my job, it's a lot of my social life.
Yeah.
And suddenly you lose all that and you're kind of thinking, okay, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that was fine when I had a goal to reach, but when, after my last setback in December, January, when they told me that Paris was no longer an option for me, I suddenly had to kind of sit back and reassess and be like, okay, why am I turning up each day if I can't achieve the one thing I've been working towards?
Yeah.
And that took a lot of time for me to kind of wrap my head around and come to terms with, and was definitely probably the most difficult period in my injury. But
how do you stay resilient? Is it even possible to stay fully resilient during that period? Because I feel like athletes after an injury, they come back gusto,
yeah,
you know, chest out, I made it through, I made it out.
Yeah.
But there must be more to it, when you're in that mind frame.
I think, so I kind of separate my injury into 3 parts. So there's the pre-surgery,
Yeah.
there was the recovery post-surgery, and then there was the recovery post the last setback. And pre-surgery, I was like, okay, I'm going to put my 110% into everything. And there was no question of motivation. I was going above and beyond what needed to be done and still falling short of what I needed to be achieving for everything that was out of everyone's control. It was just an unfortunate knee. And then same again, post-surgery, I was like, okay, this is super unfortunate, but the surgery went well. I had the best surgeon ever, and I'm super grateful for that. And I'm going to keep going. And then I actually got back to hockey in December. I did 1 session with the squad, and that was exactly what you're describing. You know,
Yeah.
I have never been more excited in my life. I literally woke up at 5 a.m. like it was Christmas Day, and I'm not a morning person at all. And I think having reached that high to then 3 days later have the setback I had, that's what made it so difficult. And I think the resilience after that point is what really tested me, because I had to really look deep within myself to find new goals. And Paris wasn't an option, but you know, I wanted to get back so I could play hockey ever again.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back so I could be available for the Euros in 2025, so I could play the club season that's just around the corner now, so that I could go on a dog walk and not be in pain. You know, things like that that you really take for granted. Well, don't take for granted going to the Euros, but you know, playing sport ever again.
Yeah.
And then it was a case of, I know I at that point in time I didn't have 100% of me to put into my rehab. I put in what I need to put in, but then I put more into other parts of me that I had kind of not neglected, but put aside while I put everything into my knee before. So things like doing more charity work or spending more time with my friends, and if I want to go on that one dog walk and my knee's going to be a bit swollen for an hour, it's not going to make a difference, so I'm not pushing timelines. And it was kind of really reassessing my goals for where I was at. I think
you basically had tunnel vision for like a decade.
Yeah, and that, you know, if I made it to the Olympics, then that would have been worth it.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of athletes also, when they come out of being injured, mentally they're so excited, but also they're drained. So I'm sure I would have had a bit of that.
Yeah.
But one thing that I think I had to come to terms with, which one of the girls I was rehabbing with here at Bisham said that kind of stuck with me, she was like, you can't blame yourself, you know? People get injured every day. And I think I've held a lot of guilt for getting injured, but realistically, I'd done that movement before. Loads of people have done that movement and not gotten injured. And I couldn't keep asking myself, what if, or what if I didn't do that, or what if I'd taken my recovery more seriously that week, you know? It was completely out of my control, and realistically it highlighted a weakness in my body that was going to come up at a later point, and it's given me an opportunity to make that weakness a strength. And don't focus on the things that you can't change and can't control, but focus on not wanting to have any more regrets going forward.
Yeah.
So I kind of flipped my mindset to being like, I don't want to look back on this injury, whether it's going to be 6 months, 40 months, 24 months, I have no idea how long it's going to be, and think that I've wasted my time.
Yeah.
So that's when I started putting my energy elsewhere at the same time as rehab. And since then, you know, rehab's been not enjoyable, but life's been good.
You basically like rebuilt yourself.
Yeah.
You've had this kind of like distant goal that I guess as the years were getting closer and closer to Paris, was getting closer and closer to becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And it's ripped away from you essentially. And it sounds like you've basically rebuilt, you've found kind of like comfort in other places, which is really like, it's really inspiring to hear. How did you do that? Was it just kind of an organic process where, like you said, you got to a point where you said, you know what, it's not happening. What else can I do? And what else do I care about? Or was it just...
I don't think it was organic. Yeah. I think I had no other option.
Yeah.
The physios and stuff and all of the support stuff. I mean, I'm really grateful for it now in hindsight, but they were like, you need to take some time for yourself.
Yeah.
The rate I was going at just wasn't going to get me anywhere productive. So I kind of just had to sit down and be like, what is it that I love about hockey that without playing hockey that I can still feel and achieve? And a lot of that was the community, so I'd still go to games and hang around after games for the social and things like that. But also, for me, a big part of it is I really enjoy that I can be a role model like a lot of other athletes were for me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that through playing or coaching, because it was too much time on my feet. But I knew that if I put a lot of time into my charity work, I could do that and feel the same sense of some sort of pride or not disappointment at the same time. So I really had to force myself into this routine, and I made myself so busy because I'm not good at not being busy. And then suddenly I got used to this new routine, and I was like, okay, this is all right. And just making time for myself, like booking a holiday.
Yeah.
I went on my holiday and I realised I'd been in at Bisham every week for 8 months in a row, which no one does anyway. No one does more than about a month in a row. Like,
yeah.
We deserve a break in rehab too.
And now you've done all of this, and you've accomplished so much while you've been away from the game. Now you're back. You know, new season.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks out from the season being back up and running. How do you feel now? Like, you know, you've essentially put that difficult process behind you. You've also accomplished stuff that you might not have accomplished had it not happened. Yeah. So where's your kind of mindset at now?
I mean, I'm actually just so excited for the league. Like, sometimes in my rehab, the team have been away, a lot of my rehab, the team have been at competition, Olympics, whatever. I've been down at the pitch by myself, making up drills, hitting the ball against the goal, and I'm having the time of my life by myself, let alone when I'm with the team.
Yeah.
And I've just got we've started pre-season now, and it's so fun being back. And I think now, because everything was taken away from me, I'm so grateful for it. And I love the social aspect, I love the competition, I love just being able to run around again. And yeah, I'm really excited for the season. I thought 2024 was going to be my year. It wasn't, but in some ways I achieved loads, and I'm just really excited to make next year my year.
And now you can win the league with your teammates.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wasn't able to experience that.
Yeah, because we lost the league last time I was playing,
Yeah.
and then this year they came back and they won the league. And I mean, it was really nice. They let me come in for the celebrations, gave me a medal, which was questionable. I was in there, which was nice. I still very much felt like a part of the team, but not as much as you can do when you're on the bench in the changing room, playing on the pitch.
It's like your personal revenge tour, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's revenge season. Revenge against the knees.
Would you give any advice to anybody who kind of like was in the position that is in the position or might one day be in the position that you were in?
Yeah, I would say as much as you can, don't blame yourself. It's not going to get you anywhere. And what really turned it around for me was giving myself a break, because, you know, every part of you's got to be working for whatever, say my need to work. Like, my body's got to be great, I've got to be strong, go to the gym, but I've also mentally got to be able to do it. So I think giving yourself a rest, but then what changed it for me was I wanted to look back on the period where I was injured and be proud of who I had been and what I'd achieved, not just about my rehab. So kind of just trying to see the bigger picture if you can, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in the injury.
You went viral for a picture in 2020 of you holding this sign. You've spoken many, many times about this, and I feel like it's very self-explanatory. I think that was the aim, right?
Yeah.
But this inspired you to start Beyond Our Game. So could you talk to us a bit about that and what it's trying to do, essentially?
So I think that sign and the photo that was taken at that protest is where everything started for me with my activism.
Yeah.
And I remember when the photo went viral and I started to realise the impact it was having. It was first being shared by celebrities, but then when Martin Luther King III shared it, I realised that this was a lot bigger than I could have ever expected it to be. And I promised myself that I'd make the most of this opportunity and try and use the power of this photo and of the moment to have a lasting impact. And that looked like quite a few different things for me. It was speaking on podcasts, doing interviews, doing charity work, but that was also the year I went out to America.
Yeah.
And obviously racism is a whole different experience out in America, and it's in your face, it's overt.
Yeah.
You know, that people you know people who've been killed by the police. And that put a lot of things in perspective for me, and I wanted to do something a bit more active. And so out in America, I was taking the knee in the game, and we were playing against UNC field hockey, who were our rival school, rival university. And Courtney, who was the captain at the time, the first black captain of UNC, reached out to me after and said, let's create a platform together to unite student athletes of colour. And that's what Beyond Our Game started off at.
Okay.
And it's looked like quite a few different things since then, but pretty much we use it as a platform to uplift and unite young athletes from diverse communities. So we do that through hosting sports camps, through educating, offering resources, giving out kit. And it's a really special community, and it's something I'm really proud to be a part of, even though I've taken a step back since coming home.
Yeah.
But once I came home for my hockey career, I knew that I wanted to keep doing something similar, impact my communities near home. So I've been helping out at a few hockey charities around me, Hockey in the City, Spencer Links, who offer cheap or free hockey sessions and free kit for the kids in South London, and it's just such an amazing place to be. And excitingly, we've now just recently launched a branch of Beyond Our Game in the UK. So It's Raising Her Game,
Yeah.
which is a UK-based charity, sister charity of Beyond Our Game. And Raising Her Game, similarly, also works to empower youth through sports, but specifically young girls from ethnic minorities, low socioeconomic groups. And I think for me, I'm so grateful for what hockey's given me. It's given me a job, the opportunity to travel, to have access to top education.
Yeah.
And I know that so many more people deserve to have that opportunity, and they've not even heard of sports like hockey, let alone seen it, had the opportunity to play it. So what Raising Her Game is all about is trying to help diversify sport and also just increasing accessibility. And my dream is that before I end my hockey career, there are people that look like me on the team, or that I've inspired little black and brown girls to play a sport that they might not have thought was for them.
Yeah, and that's what Raising Her Game aspires to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you guys run camps. Talk to me about the camps. When's the first one?
Yeah, so
How can we sign up?
We've got our first camp in October, next month, which is really exciting because this has been a year and a half in the making. And then our first 3-day camp in May. But basically, we're going into schools in East London and recruiting girls to join our camps. It's a girls-only space, and delivering talks and sessions in school, but hosting these camps, which are completely free, providing all kit, all coaching, all food, all drinks for free, making it a super fun environment because it's for primary school age girls, so really young, starting young because that's
where you get the inspiration, right?
That's when you're most excitable. And we're having GB players, England players, professional players in hockey, rugby, football coming down so that the girls have role models there. And then we've got partnerships with local clubs so that the girls can go join those clubs, again, in an environment which is accessible. So we're making sure that they can still get kit. There's no fees to join the clubs if not subsidised. And trying to create this pathway, because what I've seen is there's so many good grassroots organisations, but the link from the grassroots to the pathways isn't where it needs to be to help accessibility and diversity. So that's what we're aiming to do, and I'm so excited for the camp. I know it's going to be so fun. The Beyond Our Game camps have been so fun, and it's really nice to get to do something a bit closer to home.
It's been a huge pleasure to talk to you. It's feel like it's been very different for us because we've never spoken to a hockey player before. I think you're doing incredible things, but I've got one final question for you. Okay. Pick one athlete outside of hockey that you would describe or compare yourself to.
Compare myself to? What about who I want to be like?
Okay.
I want to be like Haaland. I want to score goals like he scores.
You scored like hat tricks back to back, didn't you?
4 weeks in a row.
So I think that's a good comparison.
It was a couple of years ago. I'm hoping this season might look like that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. We'll be on the journey with you the entire way, all the way to LA.
Thank you. Thanks so much.